Hello and welcome to this year's Sales Acceleration Summit. My name is Mick Hollison. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at InsideSales.com, and we're pleased to bring this event to you once again this year. I'm joined today by Mr. Dave Elkington. Dave is the CEO, Chairman, and Founder of InsideSales.com. Dave, welcome.
Excellent. Thanks.
All right. Well, listen, Dave, why don't you tell the folks that are watching here a little bit about this year's event and what we've got in store for them today.
This is the best year yet by a long shot. Not to say that the previous years weren't amazing, but that's how good this year is. So we have over 67 amazing speakers, authors. We have television hosts. We have CEOs, executives, former executives. We also have some of the speakers from companies like Salesforce.com, Microsoft. I've got a list here: Marketo, HubSpot, Aptus, Splunk, Gainsight, New Relic. Some of the hottest companies in the world, and frankly, some of the leaders in this sales acceleration market that's newly emerged in the last 5 to 8 years. But we also have speakers like Jack Welch, Dean Sipple. We have Brent Adamson. We have Jeffrey Hazlett. We have Kate Leggett. But she was really the first ever to really talk about the sales acceleration market. We have Oren Clough. We have Grant Cardone, another favorite speaker here. But he also single-handedly helped drive and helped bring over 2,000 people just through his social network to come and attend our event today. Out of, by the way, somewhere in the range of 35 to 50,000. The numbers are still coming in very, very quickly. We have Jeffrey Gitomer, who, again, everybody loves, and then Jill Conrath, another best-selling author.
Wow, that's phenomenal, Dave. You're right.
It's a mouthful,
better.
Right?
It is, and even bigger and better than previous years. So, listen, something that I know I get asked about quite a bit is that somehow we put on this massive show with all of those amazing speakers you just cited, and we do it totally free of charge for the audience that's tuning in today. How do we go about? How do we do that? How do we pull that off exactly?
Well, so obviously our team here, and a shout out to all of the inside sales team who helped out with this. But equally important, or if not more, there's a lot of just amazing sponsors that have supported this event and have supported it for several years. But folks like the AASP that you'd expect, the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals. As I mentioned, Salesforce and Microsoft are both speaking and are also big sponsors of this event. Marketo, Aptus, Domo, Map Anything. I mean, really, this is an event chock full of folks that are really making sure that are supporting the community, supporting this event, and making it free for everybody.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Dave, there's an awful lot going on in the marketplace right now. Certainly been maybe unprecedented levels of fluctuation in the markets of late. And in particular, it seems like high tech has been hit very hard, and maybe even more specifically than that, the fabled unicorns. For those of you that don't know the term, they're privately held companies with valuations north of $1 billion have been hit, maybe hardest of all. How does Inside Sales, and how do you personally view this market transition? What's going on?
So what's really happening is massive market values shifting away from these legacy tech companies and moving into these newer, faster growing, disruptive companies. Now, at the same time, I think everybody's very scared. We've seen the market come down in the tech space in the last 6 to 7 months. Actually, it's 57% is the number. And we've actually seen, I think, 1 or 2 IPOs year to date. Now, there's a lot of concern. I was at a dinner with every CEO of every major tech company or every major industry was invited.
This was at a Morgan Stanley tech event, correct?
That's right. It was at the Morgan Stanley tech event. And one of the questions that the CEO of Morgan Stanley asked the group was how many of them were concerned and had felt a major impact from the stock market and the pullback in the stock market. And the shocking answer was only one. Out of all 24 of these CEOs, and it was just CEOs, only one of them said that they felt a major effect of what the stock market has done in their ability to drive revenue and drive sales. And that company, I won't say who they were, but they had a very heavy presence in China. And so the answer from one of the main economists at Morgan Stanley was, it appears to be more of a financial issue than it is an economic issue, meaning there's a lot of concern in the market, but there isn't any foundation for the concern except fear and lack of knowledge. There's a little bit of disruption happening, obviously, in the emerging markets, China, Europe, but it doesn't feel as though there's any legs to this. And so the belief is, I think, keep selling. Now, the message may be a little different. I think we're going to see a focus on efficiency, driving productivity. But I think the message is just keep selling.
Fantastic. Well, we're certainly going to be doing a lot of talking about continuing selling and selling more effectively throughout this conference. You know, I'm curious what you think. You know, there are probably a few key characteristics that are going to make companies like InsideSales.com and hopefully many, many others succeed through all of this, you know, sort of tumultuous, you know, market landscape that we're in. Tell me a little bit about what the 3 or 4 things are that you think are going to make companies like Inside Sales come out on top when we're on the other end of all of this transition.
So, great question, by the way. And let's assume there is, in fact, a financial squeeze happening. Let's not call it an economic squeeze, but let's call it a financial squeeze. I think we're going to see 3 types of companies emerge. You're going to see some companies that are going to struggle, and they may not make it. And they're the ones that are probably underfunded. They're probably a little more niche, a little more product focused versus platform focused. The next category are the folks that are still growing. They've got some critical mass. They've got some amount of revenue and some reasonably happy customer base. But I think there's going to be a risk that they don't pivot to the new realities in the market, and I'll hit those in a minute. And those companies are probably going to be, I think, acquisition candidates. And then the last category are companies that are going to be on top of this. They're going to pivot to the new realities in the market. And those are the companies that are going to come out very successful. Now, the characteristics of that last one, it's going to be number 1, customer love. They take care of customers.
So it's about the whole customer journey, not
really
just one interaction.
That's right. So very kind of more of an account-based customer interaction where you're not treating it as an individual, but we're treating an organization as a customer. We're more focused on their success than our success. So that's one category. Number 2, I think companies that manage cash flow with growth. So as companies, it's incumbent on us to make sure that we have a healthy organization so that we can continue to supply the products and services that help our customers be successful. Other things, too, I think we're going to see an increased focus on this is back to the basics, but helping employees be successful, be happy. So a focus on employee success. I mean, it's an old Franklin Covey truism, but your employees will treat your customers the way you treat them. So I think we're going to see an increased focus on employee success and employee satisfaction. But those are the kind of things I'd look for.
All right, terrific, Dave. Thanks for that update on what's taking place in the market in general terms. You know, one of the things I'm curious about is what is it that you think is going to differentiate the winners from the losers? And certainly it'd be great if you were explicit about inside sales, but just in general, given the transition that's taking place in the marketplace and in a world where growth at all costs is no longer the mantra, what do you think is going to really separate inside sales and others from the pack?
I mean, the key, and this is by a country mile, it's about customer focus, customer love, customer success. I think when companies were more focused on growth, it was more about us and not them, and I think we're going to see a massive shift. If it's not already happened, we're doing it obviously internally, as you know, but I think we're going to see it in the market. If we can help our customers be successful, they will help us be successful, but you've got to put first things first. I would say that's number 1. Number 2, it needs to be more about an ecosystem and partners versus, again, just about you.
Yeah, look, I mean, look at Apple and B2C and Salesforce, our friends at Salesforce and B2B. They've both, built very sticky ecosystems.
And I think ecosystems are ultimately the key to longevity and success, and that happens by opening up versus being more closed.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Dave, I know nobody loves to talk about the products and the tech more than you do. Tell me, how is inside sales different than the sum of its point products? Like any company, inside sales has a number of products that help individual salespeople in a number of different dimensions. But it seems to me like you're trying to sell a larger, more of a platform kind of a story in sales acceleration. Tell me a little bit about that.
Definitely a softball, right?
Yeah.
Says my CMO.
Yeah, says right? The guy that works for you.
What typically happens is you see an emergence of hundreds, if not thousands, of point solutions. And so we saw it in marketing automation. When marketing automation began to emerge, we saw mass email companies, we saw web analytic companies, we saw split testing companies, we saw drip email companies. There were just thousands of these things, right? Well, over the subsequent 10 years, platforms emerged. And the reason is no one company wants to go manage 20 vendors. You want one vendor, you want one neck to choke, you want one company to trust and partner with. Well, that's what we've done is we've created a sales acceleration platform. And this is a platform that represents roughly somewhere in the range of probably 7 or 8 different categories. But the most important thing is really that predictive platform that I mentioned where we call it Neurolytics, but it's a self-learning, machine learning platform that learns from every interaction that all of our clients' salespeople perform, which means none of those 70,000 people ever make the same mistake twice.
So Dave, let me ask you this, and you mentioned it. Definitely everybody seems to be jumping upon this predictive bandwagon, if you will. Just yesterday, Mark Benioff made some remarks in Business Insider talking about predictive is really the next big thing in tech, which we of course think is great and helps validate.
I agree with him.
Helps validate our point of view. But to be honest with you, as a CMO, there are literally a dozen different tools that I could buy to score a lead, to tell me how likely I am to be able to get a hold of somebody or something. Right. There's lots of them out there. How is Inside Sales predictive platform? How is this Neurolytics engine different? What is it pulling from that makes it different?
Machine learning and AI has been around for almost 70 years. So why the emergence, why the renaissance, if you will, of AI or predictive analytics? And it's because of data. So that's what Neurolytics is. Neurolytics is a massive, massive data store of this crowdsourced data. We have over 120 million unique North American profiles in the database. So that means you're looking at roughly over half the adult population and probably 70+% of the buyers in the U.S. represented in this database. But more interestingly, we're looking at things like how many, the interactions that lead to successful or non-successful purchasing events. So we have roughly 85, almost 90 billion sales interactions. And a sales interaction could be a conversation like you and I are having.
Going even faster than your thought. We're well north of 90 billion.
That's right. I mean, you know the numbers. But what you're looking at is conversations, emails, voicemails, face-to-face, events, trade shows. Any way two people interact, we're tracking that interaction. And what emerged from that interaction. Was it successful? Was it not successful? And then more importantly, we're looking at the context around that interaction. So we know things like if it's raining in Paris but sunny in London, you should actually be engaging with people where it's raining because people are more engaged, more likely to engage when it's inclement weather. And it's kind of obvious, right, now that you think in hindsight. By the way, big data or predictive analytics is almost always intuitively obvious after the fact. It never is before the fact for some reason. But when it's raining, people are indoors. They're more likely to answer their phone or respond to an email. You have to look at macro conditions, gas, and also micro conditions, regional gas prices. You want to look at sporting events. You want to look at political events. I mean, all of these things are context to why we interact. We have trillions of that kind of data.
Wow. So it sounds like the thing that makes Inside Sales different, if I could sum up for the non-data scientists on the that are watching us today, is this big data construct, and that it's real time, that it's syndicated across many different companies. Does Inside Sales have a name for that data set?
It's a softball again, of course. It's HD data. And
why HD?
It's about high definition data, right? I mean, the challenge is the machine learning algorithms, the predictive analytics algorithms, whether you're using, frankly, Bayesian statistics or regular statistics, or you're using things like random forest or deep nets, are no better than the data you put in it. And so if you have high definition data, you're going to get high definition results. And that's what we're all about.
Awesome. So I guess all data is not created equal then,
All
right?
data is not created equal.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, listen, one of the things I've had a long career in both sales and marketing, and for the vast majority of my career, Dave, sales forecasting has been, for lack of a better phrase, a dart throwing exercise. And you start out the beginning of the quarter, and maybe you're 30%, 40%, accurate if you're lucky. That's a really terrible place to start. You're not at all accurate, and it doesn't really matter whether you're pulling that data from your reps, from the kind of bottom up, if you will, philosophy, or if you're dictating it down and finance is dictating a wonderful, rosy world. Either way, it seems to be pretty far off as we start a particular selling period. What does inside sales do or offer in that particular arena?
So we saw a huge need for this a few years ago as we were looking at the data and the data that was available. And so we were partnering with our customers to find their end of funnel data. What data the sales reps thought was going to, or more specifically, which customers, prospects, and leads they thought would become customers versus what ultimately did. And what we found was there was a massive gap in the market. So the key is all about using data and using systems. Your data, ironically, knows more than your reps are willing to fess up.
Trust your data, not your reps?
Trust your data, not your reps. So we bought a company because we saw this gap called C9. We've since labeled this as HD Forecast. Again, high definition forecast based off of that same concept of HD data. And what we're doing is we're looking at micro trends in the sales process and see what it leans or what it suggests are likely to happen ultimately when we close business. And so I'll give you examples. They're micro trends, things like if I'm interacting at a VP level versus a director level, it may increase the likelihood that someone's going to engage in the sales process. Or if I've got 8 contacts in an account or versus 25, the likelihood of me closing this this month may be substantially less. HD forecast tends to be accurate between 80 and 90%. So meaning at the beginning of a period, it could be a month or a quarter, based off of what HD forecast suggests people are likely to close within that period. 80 to 90% of it is accurate. And it's based off of a proprietary temporal database, which means...
so it's temporal versus a traditional relational database.
That's right. Which means how many times do people change territories mid-year or even mid-period? Or change sales reps, or get promoted up, or get moved over to a new patch. Well, the problem is you can't actually look at an accurate forecast if things are constantly moving unless you have the ability to look at kind of temporal context, what our platform has the ability to do based off of this proprietary database. It understands territories as they change, and it understands deal segments, or it understands sales process, even though the rep may move over and somebody else inherits the deal, or the territory changes, or the segment changes, which allows for this ability to be wickedly accurate in its predictive capability.
So Dave, I heard an awful lot there about using forecasts for an individual company or a specific sales situation, again, using this idea of very rich HD data. But I'm interested in how we might look at that in a little bit more of an aggregate level, at kind of a market level. Is inside sales doing anything interesting there to kind of let the world know what's happening in terms of sales growth?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we do at inside sales, because we have so much data, we're able to do lots of macro trend analysis to be able to then give research back to our customer base and, frankly, to the ecosystem to help us all be more successful. So one of the things we've done as we acquired this company, HD Forecast, we had access to a whole new set of data. And that data gave us a whole new set of insights. So what we did is we looked at these macro trends about revenue and how revenue is being acquired and the rate and trend of the way revenue is being acquired. And we call it the Business Growth Index. And what this does is it's not unlike what we've seen with ADP, where they've got a jobs report. We're actually able to see, amazingly, with the amount of data we have, we're able to see around the effectiveness in the sales process and what that means to, frankly, the economy.
Awesome. I can't wait to see the findings.
It'll be an interesting, wait a couple of weeks. We're going to actually release an entire research piece on this thing.
Fantastic. All right. Well, listen, our time's coming to a close here. So, what do you think should make this audience more excited about the sales acceleration space than ever before? What are the key things they should try to take away?
Well, so the exciting thing is, I think as an industry, we're getting better, we're getting smarter. Come up with a list of 5 things you're going to go actually implement in your sales organization within the next 30 days, next 90 days. And you should be able to sell more. It's one day of attendance, which is very costly, make no mistake. But in return, I promise you, you will be able to drive more sales, more revenue. You'll be able to retain your reps better. You'll actually hit bigger numbers. And ultimately, I think, help your organization be healthier and happier.
Fantastic. So really important given what a premium there is on growth and increasing revenues now. So with that, folks, I'd really like to thank all of you for your participation in this world's most gigantic sales event that we've had yet. Happy hunting out there. I really encourage you to go and visit our sponsors' booths. As Dave mentioned previously, they're what make this event, and bringing it to you free is all about. So go and see them inside the virtual trade show floor. Thanks again, and happy hunting.
Well, hey, we're excited. Big event again, virtual summit. I've got Bob Perkins here. We were asked to really talk about the trends this coming year, what we're seeing in the near future. And Bob's really prepared because he's got some brand new research from the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals. Bob, it's good to have you.
Great to be here, Ken. Good to see you, as always.
Absolutely. I've been, Bob and I go back for years. We've probably done this thing every year for 5 or 6 years in terms of talking about what we've seen this year. And there's some new things happening in the trends. Probably the first big one, I think, is the change in the selling models. Bob, tell us about what you're seeing in the data.
Well, Ken, I can't believe that we've finally arrived at this place in the history of inside sales, really, where corporate America, right, business America, really has voted in how they deploy inside sales. Those of us that have been around inside sales for a while know that the team selling model was predominant. That is, an inside rep paired with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 field reps, oftentimes in a support type function, sometimes in a co-selling type function. But it was thought that, well, let's inside sales maybe pick up the pieces, sell some of the smaller stuff.
Crumbs off the table.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, I saw this shift start happening about 6 years ago when we first did this research, made a prediction that someday soon we're going to see the discrete model where the inside rep is deployed with full account quota responsibility, cradle to grave, would eclipse it. Now, I didn't think it would happen in 2015, but after our research, the results show that nearly 40% have deployed a discrete model versus 34% in a team selling model. Now, many companies can deploy a variety of sales models, channel, distribution, the hybrid model, which, by the way, is on the rise. But never with team selling model was always the most frequently deployed. Well, we eclipsed it. And to me, this is a huge moment in the history of inside sales.
So let me make sure I got here. So the team model, 34% of companies are deploying that. The discrete model, where they own the whole quota, 39%. Is that right?
That's right, 39 point some percent.
And then the third, is that the hybrid in carving up the pie here?
Well, we added sales development this year. We weren't measuring that in the past because we wanted to keep it to outbound quota carrying inside sales. We added that. 46% of companies deploy that type selling or lead generation type model as well. The channel distribution is 22%, and the hybrid is 20%. I do want to note one thing as it comes to this discrete. Now, many people may be viewing today saying, well, we've been discrete all along. My first sales job at Unisys, I had a discrete team, right? Yeah. And a lot of software as a service companies now, that's all they deploy when they start up. So everybody thinks, well, discrete is normal. Well, when you blend in small, medium, SMB, large, global enterprise companies, the IBMs, EMCs of the world, they were huge, 90% team selling. Even those companies, it's flipping. So.
Wow. So basically what you're saying then is the team selling model is going down.
Yeah.
Hybrid and discrete is what's going up. And for the first time ever, the discrete selling model has now moved ahead of the team model, and we own our own quota. And you've been doing this since the early 90s. And back then, what was the percentage of the team model?
Well, I'll tell you, it wasn't really measured that I know of. It had to be, it had to be 80, 90% team selling. The first year we did this research, which was six years ago, it was 50-some% team, 20-some% discrete.
Wow. So the area where the discrete model has been strong all along, what companies have been discrete from the beginning? It seems like that's where most of the growth must be coming.
Companies that were discrete. Well, I'll use my own experience. In 1993, went on to Unisys to run an inside sales team. Eventually, I ran the whole inside sales infrastructure. Back then, we used discrete model to sell to smaller companies consumable supplies.
Yeah.
Quick, easy, fast transactions. Okay. Over a period of 6 years, we grew to sell bigger, higher ticket, more complex things, but it was always in a team model. Always. But today, those big ticket, more complex things are routinely sold in many models via a discrete inside rep. Companies will still stratify often with small SMB and larger enterprise, inside versus outside. Yeah. But
the big companies have all three models.
That's right. That's right.
It was Salesforce. Mark Benioff, he came up through the ranks. I'm talking about this in my new book coming out. As an inside sales rep at Oracle, fastest promoted vice president ever at Oracle. He took that model, took it to Salesforce, and they were discrete. The first 6 years, that's all they did.
Right.
Was inside sales, and they're the most innovative company in the world. That says a lot for this model.
Well, you think about it, they were the SaaS company, right? They were one of the early adopters of software as a service, and they went ahead, to your point, and deployed it via a remote selling model discreetly.
Yeah,
as do most SaaS companies.
Have anything else for the first 6 years? Let's shift gears now. Let's talk to top challenges. The top challenges for both managers, the top challenges for reps. Let's take a minute on managers first. Walk us through. Now, we've been measuring this, 10 years.
Yeah.
And for the first 7-8 years in a row, the top challenges was leads. They needed more leads, but that's changing, isn't it? At least for the management.
Well, the managers from our research that we've done, and some of which we've done with your team, InsideSales.com, and it's been great. We've gotten some great responses from that. This year, the lead quality has moved up to number 2. Now, we also asked about sales development and business development growth. It's growing off the charts. I believe more growth, more SDRs, more leads coming over the wall to sales. And so with that comes a challenge. Are they quality, right? So I think the managers are seeing this backlog of leads and saying, hey, we gotta see if we can make it streamline it, improve it, get higher quality leads.
So they're seeing that the fuel in the gas tank is the lead. And
yeah.
To grow this sucker, they got to have more and better leads.
More and better.
Number one, what's the top challenge facing management this year, Bob?
Well, managers said training and development.
Wow.
With a close third. So training and development was number 1. Lead quantity and quality was number 2. A close third was recruiting and hiring, which had been number 1. Training, for the first time in the history of our research, has moved from either number 2 or 3 up to number 1. Ken, I think
it's never happened, Bob. I've never seen that number 1.
No, but think about it. Growing so fast, people moving up the career ladder. How do we onboard them and get them up to speed quickly? And they also said
last year it was hiring and recruiting, and now they've got all these people hired. They got to get them trained. And what kind of things are you seeing with how they're doing their training?
Well, we asked that question as well. How are you addressing this? And I know in previous years it was kind of we're going to home grow it. 90% of the people said they were going to invest more in internal training. So I think by and large, there's going to be some outsourcing. There's going to be some external training, online training. But mostly they're saying we got to develop this from within to really meet our specific needs of our company and our, reps and the product.
So that's good news. They're owning their own training issues. They're owning their own growth and development. That's big. Let's turn to the reps now. We got just a couple more minutes. Yeah. What are you seeing going on from the front lines? What are they telling you?
Well, they said 3 things. 1, quantity and quality of leads.
Of course, yeah.
Of course, same as last year. But check this out. They say number 2, training development. They're saying, I'm new. I need training. Help me. Mentor me, coach me. Quite revealing. I love it, though, how well that correlates with the managers. Managers and reps more or less are in alignment on what they need. The third thing, Ken, we still hear is career advancement, right? So we got a ways to go. We got to help the community, put some resources around this career advancement piece.
I love that. We got to help grow these folks. As we grow the people, they grow the business.
Yeah.
And we just got to admit, technology, use of media. What kind of trends are you seeing there? We've talked about that one for years.
Yeah, we have. A couple things that stand out. One is the use of video. Finally, the use of video is up. So this year we found that 40% said we're either using it regularly but occasionally or frequently, or we plan to use it. About 12% said we plan to use it. So 32 roughly percent are using it consistently. That number is up.
Wow.
Amen to that one. The other thing is pretty much everybody now deploys 2 monitors. A few years ago, a lot of companies were fighting to get budget to just put 2 monitors up in front of them. The other piece that I really learned from you, Ken, is as you talk about this technology overload, and you quoted some statistics from Barry Traylor, I think.
Yeah, it blew my mind last year. For the first time, we saw the data was starting to show we're in app overload now. There's so many apps, and what scared me is the core foundation of the sales assembly line, which is CRM. The usage went down, and I'm worried about the blocking and tackling. We're sort of in the thick of thin things. We got so many different cool new things. We're forgetting the main things occasionally. So I'm gonna raise that red flag once again and say, guys, let's get back to basics. We know what to do. Let's move forward with what we know really works. Any last big warnings or exciting things you want to just throw in, Bob?
I'll just comment on your comment and maybe look at the future a little bit. But to your comment there, I totally agree. And I even look back at my own career when I was hired by SGI. I had 20 reps. I grew it to 80 within a year. So think about a lot of people are in that situation today. I mean, all I could hope was that when that new hire showed up, they had a computer that worked at their desk. I wasn't thinking about how well we're going to utilize CRM or lead generation or anything like that. So think about today's growth challenge. That's bound to come with it, but we still got to get after it. In terms of the future, look, I couldn't be more excited. For a while I thought, inside sales sort of we've hit our stride, right? But heck no. I mean, with all these new findings from the research, it's more exciting what's possible out there, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're far away from the Dick Tracy watch, right, where we conduct sales super virtually, right, and seamlessly, effortlessly with the buyer, and we're supporting the buyer's journey as we do it. So exciting times.
That's great. Bob, I remember, and you've now validated. You said, Ken, inside sales is just sales. Yeah. We're there. Yeah. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate you joining us today to launch the virtual sales summit. Thanks again, and I'm going to sit back and take notes throughout the day. We've got a lot of good stuff coming on.
It's going to be a great year, 2016. Thanks for all of your support as well, and to those viewing out there, we hope you get a lot out of today's presentations and have a great start to 2016.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.